And we are live. It's your favorite insurance agent, Darnold Jr. And this is Finlit Live. This is the show where we talk about personal finances. Because growing up, they didn't teach us how money works. And so that's the purpose of this show, so we could get all our questions answered. So if you are watching live, go ahead in the comments, put hashtag live. If you're watching the replay, put hashtag replay. And let me know where you're tuning in from, what city you're tuning in from. We'd love to know where our audience is tuning in from. So today we're talking about IULs. And if you don't know what that is, stay tuned. And we're going to talk about how you can get cash flow from your IUL, because this is a very important financial tool that most people don't know about. So let's go ahead and dive in and get lit. All right, without any further ado, I'd like to bring on my guest, Lea Rutherford. Hey, Lea, how's it going?
Hi, Darnold. It's so amazing to be here. I am doing well. Thank you for
Good.
asking. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you for taking time out your busy schedule to hang out with us here on Finlit Live. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, hello, audience. It's amazing to see everybody out there in StreamYard land and online. My name's Lea Rutherford. I am an expert in the education industry as well as a licensed life agent. I've been in both industries for a combination of 28 years, and I am extremely excited to share with you what we entrepreneurs and edupreneurs and life insurance gurus are doing in this world of financial literacy.
I love it. Edupreneurs. That's a first. I love it. So cool. Well, I went to a networking event, and she was one of the keynote speakers at this networking event, and she wowed the crowd. So you guys are in store for an amazing, amazing presentation. So today we're here to talk about IULs. So before we even get started, what is a IUL?
Well, that's an excellent question. So IUL is an acronym for Index Universal Life. And basically, it's an index product that will not lose money during the time that the market is dipping. And so your life insurance policies are invested in the market. And basically, they can be fixed, they can be variable, or they can be indexed. And the index ones are the ones who will not cost you money during a market dip. Basically, if I use my two hands, and if this is the market and this is your IUL, right? As the market is plateauing, your IUL is plateauing. As the market is increasing, your IUL is increasing. But if the market dips, then your IUL will continue to plateau. And then once it increases, then your IUL will participate in the market again. The goal is when there are losses in the market for you not to lose your savings, your well earned and well invested monies.
Awesome. I actually, ironically, have an IUL, and my statement just came in the mail yesterday. And I was looking at that. I was like, wow, the market was down last year.
Right.
Luckily, didn't lose money in my IUL, which is great. So, today we're actually going to talk about how you can earn cash flow from the IUL. Would you like me to bring up the slideshow right now?
Sure, we can just talk a little bit about it. I love dialoguing about this. And one of the reasons that I love dialoguing about it so much is because I personally have had an opportunity to see how this can change my family's trajectory financially. Um, we basically either know what we don't know what we don't know, or we're somewhere in between, right? And I
Absolutely.
really often had questions about how to make money for me. And I didn't know how to execute that. I knew it was a concept. I knew when I became a licensed life agent, that was something that I just should know. But once I began reading and applying what I was reading, I shifted from the what I don't know to from that I don't know what I don't know, started pushing over into the quadrant of now I know. And as I began applying what I began learning, it showed me ways to take the money that I was earning and not only save it, but be able to plan for my future. A little backstory about my journey is that 28 years ago, I came to Texas through a teaching program called Teach for America. I'm very proud that they were a part of my teaching journey because it allowed me to be connected to a very powerful network. And if I look at one piece of that is now as a entrepreneur, I'm actually in one of the high rises that Teach for America headquarters in as one of their entrepreneur subleasers. And so you never want to burn bridges, right? Because it's important for you to know that those relationships have a purpose for your path in the future. And so as I began teaching, that allowed me to, of course, earn an income. And then through that process, I was able to put money up for retirement. But about halfway through my teaching career, now over 15 years ago, I like to say I fired my boss and hired my purpose. And I had to have a resource to do that. And one of the ways that I was able to fund myself to hire my purpose was through my retirement account. What I actually did was I withdrew the entire amount that I had accumulated over 13 years. It was only about $25,000. Now, granted, that probably could have compounded into something greater, but I knew that it was just a seed for what my next step was for my future. And when I withdrew that, I had no concept of how to use IULs for cash flow or what life insurance could do for me or anything of the nature, right? I just knew I had some money somewhere that I could take out to fund my next phase of my life. And it was a true leap of faith because it was really the only resource that I had that could fund me. And the short story is when I pulled out 25,000 after penalties, I only got $19,500. And if you imagine, that's about 3.5 years of service time that was penalized because I pulled it out before I was 59 and a half. But fast forwarding now to where I am in my career, I'm in a position now to put what I withdrew and then some up annually because of being able to apply. And when I say up, I'm talking about in savings, in investments, in a retirement account, in a life insurance policy, in a policy for my kids, etc., because of the knowledge that I've gained as well as the concentrated work that I've put into my entrepreneur endeavors. And one of the ways that I've been able to amass assets is through IULs, index universal life insurance policies. Okay. Now, what one of the things that I've been able to apply directly is utilizing the IUL as the investment, the cash flow investment account that it does have the capacity to be. Unlike some other products, there's actually a piece of your premiums that you pay monthly in an IUL that go into a savings account, if you will. And in that savings account within your life insurance policy, you actually have the capacity to deposit cash. As well, you have the option to use that cash. But what's so cool about the cash flow piece of an IUL is when you use the cash in an IUL, you one are not at any risk to your life insurance policy because that cash then just simply becomes a lien, if you will, against the life insurance policy. Two, you don't have to pull your credit. It doesn't impact your credit if you don't pay it back. And there's so many ways that you could use this. Do I encourage you to just take it all out and never pay it back? Of course not. That's just not good fiscal practices. However, to know that you could withdraw $10,000, use it to invest in another business, to purchase another home, to close gaps in your child's college tuition. And that $10,000 is still compounding interest within your IUL is the eighth wonder of the world is compounded interest. And that is, for me, it was the biggest like aha in my portfolio. There are definitely other ways to diversify your portfolio, but this is one way that is tried and true, and I stand by it for myself, for my family, and for the next levels of my personal income, as well as my liquidation times when I know there's going to be moments that I'm investing in the next phase. I've got a kid graduating from high school. I've got a 10-year-old that aspires to be an actress, and I've got several pieces of our lives that have momentum. And so to know that as a single mom, which I am, that I've got a resource that I can go to without feeling confined or bent over the barrel as I could be if I'm having to do other types of loans, but that I'm putting away cash of my own that I can liquidate is very powerful. So what I've included is a couple of slides just to show a brief example of the difference, a quick comparison between many of us we've come from parents when we're in our, 20s, because that's when I'm in my 20s. Our parents didn't have as much knowledge about many of these particular vehicles as we're learning now. And many of them saved money in the wall, put money under the mattress. Many of them used savings accounts at the bank. And those methods, while they worked for them, when you know better, you do better. And in order to amass wealth, you've got to be able to compound your monies. And so if you go to the next slide, I just want to do a quick comparison. I pulled these rates today. Okay. And what I'm going to use as a fundamental investment is $200,000. And the reason I'm going to use that is because I had a client come to me and say, hey, I have $200,000. What do you think I should do with it? And they really were just like, I'm just going to go stick it in a savings account. And I was like, that might not be the only way that you could have your money sitting somewhere safely. There is another option. And I showed them a comparison between the rates and what happens when we look at the annual percentage yield of the interest on savings accounts versus IULs. So I pulled this rate today, and if you see right under each one, it's got today's date. And so for the sake of drastic comparison, I want to use the Bank of America APY. Okay. 0.01% is what you're yielding on a Bank of America savings account as of January 31st, 2023. Now, that client, had he taken the $200,000 and put it in the savings account, let it sit there for 5 years, okay? So 200,000 is going to be consistent, 5 years is going to be consistent. But is placed is going to be the only thing that's going to be different in this example. So we've got 0.01%. And if you go to the next slide, after 5 years, we will see that a $200,000 initial balance after 5 years at a 0.01% interest earns a total of $100.02.
Wow.
Okay. So your
Wow.
$200,000 investment over 5 years in a Citibank, a Bank of America savings account would be now $200,100.02. So now, if you go to the next slide, this is a direct comparison side by side. I pulled several IUL cap rates. And basically, that's just some of the rates on the average that are being paid out through the IUL investment vehicle. And let me just put a little caveat right here while it's on my mind. Do you know, while that $200,000 is sitting in Bank of America, that they are investing your money in life insurance policies?
Absolutely.
Bet you didn't know that. Look it up. And so let's just use the middle ground in this particular snippet of 9%. If that was going to be the annual percentage yield on the $200,000, and it's in a different location, 5 years, same $200,000, But in this case, instead of me putting that $200,000 in Bank of America saving account, I'm putting it in an IUL with Nationwide. Can you go to the next slide? $113,000, $113,136.21. I didn't want to knock off the $136.21. I want to be very intentional about the just because that amount of money, that investment was placed in one vehicle versus the other. Same 5 years, same initial investment. You now have a future investment value of $313,136.21. Now flip back real quick 2 slides for me, Darnell.
That's such a big difference.
$200,000. Now flip
Big
forward 2
difference.
slides.
Big difference.
$313,136,000. Now, I just want to know, what could you do with an additional $113,000? If 5 years, which is going to pass anyway, was to pass, and that $200,000 that you were going to invest anyway was invested, and it was just a matter of choosing, do I put it in this house over here or this house over here? This house is going to give me back $100 in 5 years. So in 2028, when I'm 26, because I'm 21 right now, I would only get back $100. However, if I put it in this house over here in 2026, 2028, when I'm 26, I would get back $113,000.
Wow. It's 113,000 more.
113,000 more.
Wow.
So 200,000 plus 113,000, not 200,000 plus $100. $200,000 plus $113,000, just because you chose a life insurance policy product, index product specifically, that compounds the eighth wonder of the world intentionally, because you chose that vehicle versus the bank account. You have just made your money make money. And that, according to Robert Kiyosaki, is the quadrant that we want to get in. We start off as employees, we shift to being self-employed, then we move to being business owners, and then we get to a place where we're investors. And that's when we can put our money somewhere and our money becomes our employee. We're now the boss to our money. And that is the goal.
That's huge.
So if you flip to the next slide for me, I have put here a survey. So for you viewers out there that would like me to give you a free analysis, to be able to look at maybe a policy that you have, many people are coming into retirement. I know there's Googlers out there, and I pray for each one of the 12,000 of you all that are on that layoff list. But that means you have money that needs to be rolled over into something safe, something that will compound, something that will make money for you, that your investment can now be its own employer on your behalf. If you all will scan the QR code, it's a brief survey that just asks a few questions, and it gives you an opportunity for us to be able to reach back out to you. With that, I've got a team of brokers that are extremely knowledgeable. Of course, some of them are even way more knowledgeable than me on many different products, not only index universal life insurance policies, but retirement products, asset protection, other opportunities where you are able to set up your trust so that your assets can be properly willed. Will services. We even have a product where if you are if you've got smaller children under 18, and if something, especially if you're a single mom like myself, I remember asking the question one time, what would happen to my kids if something happened to me? And at that stage in my life, I didn't have an answer due to some of the circumstances that were swirling around in my sphere. And with this product, there is orphan benefits. So if you are a parent of smaller children and they were to lose you as their parent, then those children who would have to be cared for by somebody, often a relative, would then each receive $900 a month. They call it life support. Child support from heaven. They would receive $900 per kid per month as what is called orphan benefits for those babies that have lost their parent or parents. In tragic scenarios, I've seen it happen over and over again. And so in this case, they would have access to scholarships for school. This particular product also gives grants for community services and so forth. So this is just an opportunity to look at additional products. And if you scan this and once we get your analysis, we're able to come to you and say, hey, let's look at some things for your family. Do you have debt? Do you own a home? Did you recently get married? Did you just have a baby? Have you experienced sickness in your family that wiped out your income, your savings, your investments, etc.? These are opportunities for us to have these conversations. And my goal, my mission is to totally defund GoFundMe, because there are so many options where that does not have to be our go-to. We've got to be responsible. We've got to be responsible as a community, as women, as African Americans, as minorities in this country. We've got to leave a legacy for our children. Now, if you don't mind going to the next slide for me, this is a way for you all to contact me. Of course, I've kind of shared a lot of information in this last 15 minutes, and I anticipate that I will hear from many of you all that are viewing from out there in online land. And I look forward to having an opportunity to speak with each of you. Of course, the first two, one is my email. The other is going to be a website that gives you a little bit more information about my coaching and training, direct line that I will be able to call you back from, as well as my handles online, IG, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, as well as TikTok. So I look forward to many more opportunities like this, Darnold, and I really appreciate you allowing me to spotlight your podcast this evening. This has been a plum-pleasing pleasure and a privilege, and I would not have wanted to spend my evening any other way. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, great job. Great job. Great information. So I'd like to open up to the audience. So if you're watching and if you have any questions, feel free to type in the comments any questions you have for Lea, and she'll be happy to answer it. And while they're doing that, while they're typing in their questions, I just like to throw out a question for you. Is there any books or resources you would recommend if somebody would like to get more information about everything that you just spoke about?
Look, you must have been reading my mind, because I sat here with the books to the side, and as I was in my spiel, I didn't get an opportunity to actually bring that in. So absolutely and without question, I swear by this book, What Would the Rockefellers Do? What I love about the author Garrett Gunderson is that he basically gives the writing is extremely simple, and y'all can see, like, I've got all my tabs and notes, like I have written this book up, but the writing is very simple. This is not a get an audio book or an Audible, listen to it in the car. This is a take notes, and it gives you literally step-by-step application tools for getting your wealth on track. So I definitely recommend What Would the Rockefellers Do? Without a doubt. I'm in the process of reading this book, Your Next 5 Moves, by none other than Patrick Bet-David. And this is just a strategic book for mastering the art of business strategy. There's so many nuggets in here that are very powerful. And then, I mean, the list goes on and on. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, leadership books. My daughters, they know we have 30 minutes of reading time when we do sit down together. And those books always have to be on self-development, leadership, and finance. And so anytime you are able to get connected with resources that will build your knowledge base. What I will have to say is this: even though I've been a licensed life agent for the past 3 years, this book that I read since the summer is what taught me what I needed to do with my money. And I began following the steps in this book that now has allowed me to invest money in different vehicles that are really putting me on a great path for this next 5, 10, 20 years of my life. And of course, for the future, for my generations that will follow. So I can give you a plethora of books, but those are the ones that, are right here at my fingertips. Your library should be worth more than your closet. Chew on that.
And should be worth more than your TV too.
That, without a doubt.
So cool. Great resources. Maybe we should start a book club.
Hey, you said nothing but a word.
Yep. So knowledge is power, but it's one thing to have the knowledge, but where the rubber meets the road is the application of the knowledge. And that's what I personally call wisdom. And if you don't use wisdom, then knowledge is pointless. So all the wisdom and gems that Lea just dropped, don't let them go in one ear out the other. Apply them to your life and your finances and watch the magic of compounded interest help make your life better financially. So cool. We appreciate you, Lea, for sharing all those golden nuggets.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Have a good evening.
You too.
Well, wow, that was amazing. If you got any value out of today, go ahead and smash that like button. If you know somebody that would benefit from hearing about the information that Lea just shared, share this information with them, because once again, knowledge is power. And if people don't have the knowledge, how can they have the power? So go ahead and share this information. It's one thing to keep it all for yourself, but you got to share it with other people. So I'm Darnell Kimball Jr., and the reason I started this podcast is because growing up, they didn't teach how money worked. I have a Baylor business degree, and they taught us how income statements and balance sheets work. They taught us how to evaluate a business, but they didn't teach us how to improve our credit score. And so that's the purpose of the show, is to be able to teach about basic personal financial things, everything from cryptocurrency to real estate to obviously insurance to anything personal finance related. That way we could increase our knowledge about how money works, because if we know, then we could do better, just like Lea mentioned earlier. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Stay tuned next week. We have another powerful guest. I appreciate you guys for getting lit.